So I recently picked up a new bumper, which took me about a couple months to get. And now that I have it, I figured that I'll do a comparison versus the old one and the new one. More of an apples to apples, if you will. So this is a Cwest style front bumper made by Extreme Dimensions, which cost me about $300 to $400 shipped to my house, and the fitment was pretty okay. And I say okay very loosely. And then we have this. This is a authentic Cwest front bumper, which costs well over $1,000. And I think it was a good time to see if which one is actually better, if this is actually worth the money, if this is actually worth over $1,000 compared to a $300 to $400 front bumper. So I got them both out, and we're just gonna line them up and do the comparisons and also get them fitted as well. I have both bumpers side by side, so I can try to give the best comparison as I can. Starting off with the corner piece where the fenders meet up with the bumper. You can tell there's more of a straight line on the Duraflex one versus the Cwest. It's kind of rounds out a little bit more and then starts sloping down. And by the looks of it too, the Extreme Dimensions one slopes down a little bit sooner than the Cwest one. Then for where the bumper kind of meets up with the headlight, you can see that the lines are a little bit more jagged than the Cwest. Keep in mind, I didn't touch any of this. I just installed it. Pretty much came like this. And then you get to like the opening for the sides. Just by looking at them, they look pretty much the same. But when you really start looking and start zooming in, you can kind of see more of a uneven lines with the Duraflex than the Cwest. Really not gonna do a comparison of how the front looks, mainly because, well, I hit this one with a hammer just for shits and giggles to see how it'll hold up. So I can't really test how flush this is, but what I can do is that the Cwest bumper has these tabs that the OEM bumper had, which connected to the front of fender, and then the Duraflex does not. There's no tabs, which causes this to kind of flex because there's nothing bolted onto this. And then also it has these cuts as well next to the tab. Duraflex does not. It's just all smooth. And then another one I can't really do a comparison to is how the front opening is. Now we both did the same thing for the front, just mine's a little bit more aggressive. So he had to cut his front. I'll put his IG up because he's actually doing a dope ass S2000, but he had to cut his opening up to get his intercooler to fit. Meanwhile, I had to cut mine's up to get my radiator fit. So I can't really do a good comparison on how the front is supposed to look because we both cut ours. Don't really need to do the other side because it's pretty much the same. So now after looking at both of them and comparing them, I'm gonna throw them both on so we can get a fitment test on how they both look. Now we have the old bumper on, the Extreme Dimensions bumper on, so we can take a look at the fitment on this. And you can just tell by looking at the corner piece, just has so big of a gap. These gaps are so huge to the point where I can just put my fingers in it. And this corner always just pissed me off. Even when I first got it, it's always pissed me off because no matter how you look at it, you still see these gaps. I even had these gaps with my OEM fenders as well. But you can just see how bad it is. I also loosened up my headlights to try to get some movement out of them so I can kind of this thing fit as much as I can. And then I also took out the radiator as well, so that won't be a problem. You can see up here that I have some fitment issues, mainly because there's nothing attached to the fender and bumper, so this kind of flexes up a little bit. Not too concerned about this because again, I hit a hammer with it. And then you just still move on to the right side where these gaps still persist. And it just looks really, really bad. And then see how it looks with the hood closed. you have like these gaps between the hood and the bumper. So now that you got to see how this looks up close, I'm going to take this bumper off and then put on the authentic Cwest bumper and see how that looks. So now we have the Cwest front bumper on, and you can just tell the fitment is a lot better. I didn't do anything any different than putting this on. So we'll start again on the corner piece for the fender and the bumper. You can see how this is a lot tighter, and this kind of matches up more with the fender. And you can see that the gaps aren't that bad, and you can kind of make them non-existent if you just push in the bumper a little bit more. Now, even though I don't have like the tabs for this fender, actually I do have the tab. You still have access for those tabs on both sides. Same thing for the fitment on this side. You can kind of get there too. Keep in mind that there's no bolts holding these two together, but the fitment on here is a lot better. And these gaps can go away with me just pushing them in and also getting the fender worked as well. I have no intentions on getting this cut to make these fenders work. This is just a lot better. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna cut this in half, toss this in the bin, and then I'm gonna get back to this because there's also some pretty cool stuff on here, as you can see as well. But first, I'm gonna cut this and get this out the way. So I don't have a rebreather mask, but I do have a mask on. My garage door is wide open, so I do have pretty good ventilation. So I should not be breathing in too much of the fiberglass when I cut this thing in half. Now the old bumper is gone, tossed in the bin, never to be seen again. Bars. Time to admire the Cwest bumper. One of the things that I like now is these carbon canards that came with this bumper. This is actually for the Cwest, designed for it. And to be honest, I didn't think I was gonna go with canards for this build, but looking at them, it really grown on me, and they just look so damn cool. Another thing, I have this gap where the fender and bumper meets. I actually have an add-on piece for both sides. I think this part is for the passenger side, which connects on and kind of meets up. Obviously it doesn't with this because of the canards in the way, and I think I may have to trim this a little bit. I'm personally not going to. I'm actually gonna take this to like the body shop and get all this stuff fixed. So I ended up buying that front bumper, this hood, a pair of side skirts, and a trunk lid, all from Extreme Dimensions. And in my defense, back in the day, Extreme Dimensions was the shit. You've seen them on car magazines, car shows, and even some video games as well. So when I got it, I was very disappointed, but I don't regret my decisions on buying it because that's just something that I wanted when I was a kid. But now knowing what like actual fitment looks like, that's something that I can never really go back to. Now keep in mind that these fenders are not like Jay's Racing fenders, but the reason why I got these is because these are actually wider than the Jay's Racing. But if I wanted to like get that front bumper for that perfect fitment, you know, all I had to do is spend maybe about $600-800, pretty much around the same price for that front bumper, just to make all that stuff fit. But for me, it just doesn't seem worth it. So that's it. Hope you all learned something like I did, because I know I learned that all parts are not created equal. Pretty interesting to see how both of them lined up and just see how much you can really get for $400 versus something well over $1,000. I'm actually pretty happy that I actually got both of those bumpers. And I'm also happy that this is the same color as the rest of my car for the most part. But that's it. See you all next time.